All righty, well, we are live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kansas City Oasis. We are Kansas City's premier alternative to faith-based community. My name is Julie Manning, and I will be your hostess and MC for today. So glad you guys made it out here. We're going to have a great program. Before I get into our lineup of speakers, I wanted to remind you our 5 core values that help found Oasis. People are more important than beliefs. Meaning comes from making a difference. Reality is known through reason. Human hands solve human problems. Be accepting and be accepted. Today we have our musical guest, Alan White, that we've been chatting with for the last couple minutes. Look forward to hearing more of his music. Mark Mendon is one of our very own heart of hearts Oasis. Gosh, Mark, you'll have to tell us how many years you've been with Oasis. It's been a long time. And then our featured speaker after our coffee break will be Kelley from the BikeWalkKC, and he will be telling us all about how we can be safe bike walking in KC. So looking forward to hearing more about that. I do have a couple announcements, and then we're going to invite Alan to come sing a few songs for us. We always like to celebrate our birthdays, anniversaries, so if you have those things, please send them in to me or our leadership team. Anybody who's affiliated with that Kansas City Oasis leadership is happy to take those notes for you. Yesterday was Aaron S.'s birthday. Happy birthday, Aaron. And today is Guy Nearhouse's birthday. So happy birthday, Guy. Next Saturday, so 6 days from now, we are going to be getting a group of more than, I think it's 25, 30 people almost, to the Snake Saturday Parade. This is in North Kansas City, and it's going to be right around, we're going to show up about 10 a.m. Parade is due to start around 11, and we are going to dress up as dinosaurs, dancing dinosaurs for those who choose to participate in dancing. We're also going to have some people in Oasis t-shirts. So if you want to join us, if you want to be a dinosaur, we actually do have some more dinosaur costumes to fill. We've got 2 youth size, a small, a medium, a large, and 2 toddler costumes even, size 3 or 4. So if you've got, hey, Michael, you want to come? Bring your little kids. Or those of you who want to be a part of it, not super interested in wearing a dino costume, totally great. You can throw an Oasis t-shirt on you and you can support Oasis. So if you guys are curious as to like, wow, this sounds weird, what are you going to be doing? Our kiddos are going to be passing out little plastic dinosaurs to people in the crowd. We might even be making some balloon dinosaurs. So if those of you are willing to follow some YouTube videos and make some balloon dinosaurs, please let us know. We've got an easy YouTube video that you can follow. And of course, we'll provide all the supplies. We just want to get something fun and silly to get our team together and really just have a time to celebrate, especially something as fun as like a snake parade dinosaur dancing thing. They're going to try to get me and Will to do the jig. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. Next announcement, Micah Ministries is asking for some volunteers to sort donated clothes. This is going to be Wednesdays in the afternoon from 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock, starting on March 16th. Your point of contact will be Sally Mendon. So if you're interested in helping, if you have that chunk of time free on Wednesdays, please get in touch with Sally so she can give you some guidance on that. We are excited to announce our first Oasis Happy Hour in the last 2 years. So if you've been missing your friends, make sure you come out. This is going to be Tuesday, March the 22nd. So again, mark your calendars, put it on a Post-it, write it on your hand. We will have a Facebook event also, but March 22nd, we're going to be at KC Chicken and Pizzeria. So if you guys have been to Missy B's, this is right next door to that. And our private page, we will have an event as well for that. Let's see here. We are going to have, okay, drum roll, please. Our first in-person meeting together since COVID started. It's happening, guys. Sunday, April 3rd. You guys know that, but we actually have a venue. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but we have a venue. It will be posted. Maybe our leadership team can tell me if I'm allowed to say when and where. It's still going to be at 11. I know that. But please, 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 if you have old Oasis friends or new Oasis friends, people you think would just love our content, want to get together, high five, wave, hug, whatever the people that they haven't seen in a long time, please make sure you're sending out that information. Sunday, April 3rd. It'll be in that kind of downtown main area there. More info to come on that. So I'll follow up if I'm allowed to share the location with you. Otherwise, stay tuned and we'll have that location for you soon. We are going to get straight into hold on. I don't want to mess up my timeline. Sometimes I mess this up. I want to say music. 2 songs up front. Okay, so there we go. Music time. So Alan, sorry for long announcements. Please take us away on our first set of music.
Okay, here we go. If I could tell you my story without revealing my truth, then you can bet I'd leave out some regrets for the ways that I've wasted my youth. I had a heart full of anger that I held on for dear life. I kept on drinking the poison myself in the hope that the other guy would die. Here is my head, here is my heart, here is my reason. Here are my secrets, I got nothing left to hide. I have survived this with no surprises. My eyes were wide open all the time. I don't require your forgiveness, but I need some from myself. Knew all along I was doing things wrong, and I waited too long to get well. But now I'm feeling much better. There is some hope for my soul. I've come to see there's more power for me when I learn to surrender control. My heart, here is my reason. Here are my secrets, I got nothing left to hide. I have survived this with no surprises. My eyes were wide open all the time. My eyes were wide open all the time. And the crowd goes wild. It's amazing. I have, generally speaking, if somebody plays an acoustic guitar, people will say, oh, folk singer. And I think, gosh, I don't think I am a folk singer, but because when I have stories about how I wrote my songs, they're shorter than the songs. That's how you know I'm not a real folk singer. But now I've graduated into the realm of the double capo and can no longer deny my folkness. All during the entire lockdown time. And I sleep with a guitar in my bed. And I play the guitar every day. I work on new music every day. during that entire time, I didn't finish a single new song. But once I started coming out again, I finally got something going. And this one's called Anytime. Anytime you want to walk in from your wilderness, clear your mind and scrape the mud off of your soul. Anytime you see the kind of fool you want to be, I'll be here to help you gain control. I have seen you as you slowly slipped away from love, found a hiding place inside your darkest fears. It seems you want me to come following in after you. Well, baby, I've tried and failed for years. I know the cave you're in, I've wandered there before. Not gonna chase you into darkness anymore. But when you finally win the battle that's been raging in your mind, I'm standing by anytime. Anytime. Anytime you start to think of the unthinkable, and you can't contain what's swirling through your head. Anytime you need an ear for your insanity, I'll be here to talk you off the ledge. Talk you off the ledge. Now in every way that matters, I believe in you. And however far you stray, I got your back. When you finally see it's time to face reality, I'll be here to help get you back on track. I know the cave you're in, I've stumbled there myself. Not gonna chase you into one more private hell. But when you finally win the battle that's been raging in your mind, I'm standing by anytime. 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 Anytime.
Yay! Oh, that is so wonderful. I'm just over
Thank
here,
you.
like, imagining we're by the fire and you're just playing the acoustic guitar to me. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Alan. Stay tuned, guys. We are going to have more from Alan here in a little bit. I got a message from Sarah. Yes, I am allowed to share a location with you. So we are going to be at the UMKC building in their theater. I can find the full name of the theater if you're curious. But this is going to be fantastic. We're going to work with them. They're going to provide an area for us to park. We're going to have the full sound and seating, and I think we're going to do catering type stuff. It's going to be super exciting. So stay tuned. If we have any updates, of course, we'll let you know, but keep an eye on your feeds in that Google private page for our KC Oasis. Pearson Auditorium. Thank you, Jason. He's always paying attention. I love it. Pearson Auditorium, for those of you who might have been there before, it's I've been told it's an amazing space. So looking super forward to that. James Zydeco Band, did I say that right? Zydeco, yeah. Zydeco Band will be playing for us, and we are super excited. I'm sure the speaker will be announced very soon too. So other announcements before we break into our community moment person. We are still looking for more MCs. So if you're like, man, I could talk just like that girl does, please call me. I'm in charge of that. I will kind of make sure you get training. It's not as scary as it sounds like. You just have to be able to roll on the fly just a little bit. Accepting applicants now. We are also looking for someone to help manage our community moments. So the thing Mark will be doing here in just a minute, we're trying to look for a new coordinator for that. Our beloved Mark Dixon, he's been working on that for a really, really long time. He's ready to shift over into some different areas of Oasis leadership. So we're just trying to find someone else who can manage those things. So if you have good ideas about how to bring people in for those community moments, please let us know. We're happy to help, again, coordinate you with Mark to get some training on how to do that in an easy way. We are starting, this is the first week, I believe, I know my group is on the 10th, community groups. So this is a very, very popular part of our Oasis community. These are smaller groups, anywhere from 5 to 20 people, depending on the location. And this is how you get to know people. Sometimes here we don't get to chit chat very much. So this is our first opportunity for in-person groups, depending on the host. So if you're not already signed up for those, we can try to get you plugged in. But we are also looking for a person who would be willing to help coordinate, making sure the presenters, or I'm sorry, the hosts kind of have all the same information, making sure any newcomers are getting plugged into a group. Again, it's not very much time or dedication. We just need to make sure we have someone to give Mark a little bit of relief because he has been working so hard for so long. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm part of this community, I want to make a difference, I want to make it work, please let us know how you can help, okay? We are going to move right into Mark Mendon. We always like to get 3 words to describe our guest. Mark is retired. And his warning label, if he had one, was, if you want to argue, I have all day. So Mark, take us away. Mark, you're muted. Unmute for us, friend.
Well, you just missed the best part of my whole thing. So thanks for having me again. I decided to take pity on Mark Dixon and give another community moment. So trying to help out. Thanks to the board for setting up all this stuff, and can't wait to meet in person. So when Mark asked me to do a community moment, it was right about the time I started seeing all these life is good challenges online. So I just went ahead and decided I'll just do my life is good here for you all. So nobody challenged me in the future on Facebook because I've already done it here. I have a little slideshow and I'll just get right into it here. So March 2020, the pandemic started and everybody, oh, sorry, my wife says I'm not sharing. All right, can everybody see that now? I assume you can. So March 2020, the pandemic begins and everybody panicked. I was actually out from work sick already, and I was getting ready to go back, and I got the call to not come in again. All the time, my company was constantly saying, "Oh, it's impossible for us to work from home. We can't do it that way." And the pandemic showed us that they were all wrong, and we can work from home. So, and we had a whole new dress code for working at home, which was very comfortable now. So even with 3 3 naps a day. This is an actual picture of me. I looked really good back then at the start of the pandemic, so I've aged just a bit. But even taking 3 naps a day, I was still probably more productive than I was at work because we cut out all those long lunches, the breakfast, a lot of hours we were wasting just doing nothing. And those were kind of the things I actually liked about work. So I decided I would just quit and we would go ahead and start our escape plan then, to a little earlier than we had planned. We bought a new trailer, and of course, the dealer told us that our Dodge Durango would be fine for pulling this big old trailer. And you can see we ended up with a new truck. So do not ever believe the dealers when you're buying a trailer, because your truck will not be big enough. Zoom was fine, and then it started to kind of suck, so I quit. It was, I'm a very social person. The job was not fun anymore. I was tired of worrying about layoffs and all that stuff. So I just went ahead and quit much earlier than we had originally planned, but I think we're going to be able to be okay until I saw the stock market last week. So our first trip was to Hawaii. We actually went, not Hawaii. Hawaii is where I want to go. We went to Florida to the opening of the new Orlando Oasis. We had a great trip. We had a couple of the board members were on it. We rented a beautiful Airbnb in Orlando. It had a swimming pool and it was extremely affordable. So I think we all had a pretty good time on that trip. Next, we went to the Dominican Republic, and here I am in my lovely shorts there. I kind of matched the guy making the handmade cigars. I'm not sure how good the cigars. I don't really smoke cigars, so I gave those to my stepdad. But that was interesting to see how all the cigars are made. Then we went on to our big trip and we went to Uganda. This is a picture out of the from the porch of one of our huts we were staying in Uganda. This particular one was interesting. The hot water, they came every morning, every evening, and they stoked it with wood to get it hot water. So it was all from wood burning water heaters. A lot of the places we stayed at in Uganda, there was limited electricity sometimes, but amazingly enough, most of them had pretty good Wi-Fi. It was an amazing trip. Here is my fashion statement. I was just trying not to look like an old retired guy, but it seemed to have failed. Here's a few pictures from what we saw. Like I said, it was an amazing trip. Up in the right-hand corner is a gorilla, and we were actually that close to these gorillas. I mean, there was a mother with a baby on her back that I could have reached out and touched. We had to hike up a huge mountain. My knee went bad about a quarter of the way up. They offered to have a Ugandan helicopter come up and take me to the top. They said it'd be $200. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I'll try to go on my own. I took about 4 more steps and decided to spend the $200. So a Ugandan helicopter is the chair on the sticks. And they came up the mountain. There was like 12 guys. It looked like a whole village was coming up to help me get to the top of this mountain. We were originally kind of guilty about, I mean, it seemed like really hard work, and we were kind of guilty about making these guys have to carry me up the mountain. But when we got to talking to them, they said that for most of them, this would pay their rent and all their bills for like 2 months. So they were all very happy to be employed, and they were wonderful people. This elephant picture down here, just so that's a mosquito net on that hat. That's why it looks kind of very dorky, or dorkier than it usually does. Just a couple of minutes later, after we took this picture of this elephant, he charged our vehicle, and it was scary but amazing. He got very close, but we were able to get out of the way. In the center picture is a chimpanzee. Don't confuse chimpanzees for gorilla, because they will point it out to you over and over again. And then there's some lions over here, which I've never seen any in the wild. It's like amazing to see just lions just hanging out. And one of my favorites was the giraffes. Just, we saw whole herds of giraffes just loping across the horizon. It was just amazing to see. If you ever get a chance to go to Uganda, you should do it, definitely. Then we got home just in time for Samantha Irene Marshall to join our family. She's our beautiful little baby grandchild. She is now 3 months old, I believe, right around there. Don't quote me on that. And here she is with her brother. They seem to get along okay right now, but I'm sure as they grow up, they'll be just like me and my sister. We got along, but. And so Julie mentioned that we were the Micah Ministries. We took over as kitchen managers at Micah. They asked if I could help out on Mondays, and I went down for my first time to just help out on Monday. And the next thing I know, they handed me the keys to the whole thing and said, well, you're in charge. And then they left. So we're currently trying to figure out how to feed 500 people a night, maybe 1,000 meals we actually serve, and to get all the food. So if anybody's interested in ever helping out at Micah, it's one of the organizations that Micah or Oasis supports, and they've done a great job over the years supporting us. And I think we recently bought paper or toilet paper and donated to Micah Ministries. We're always in need of toilet paper. Maureen Kennedy is also helping out with Micah Ministries. She fills the bottles for hygiene products, shampoo, and all that kind of stuff. So if you have any of those bottles, or you have product you want to donate, we can always use those. Oh, that's the end. I guess that's all I have to say.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you so much. We love your just candid flair to everything.
My what?
Your candid flair. I mean, I'm the same way, and people say it like it's a bad thing. I'm like, no, it's not a bad thing. But yeah, Uganda sounds amazing. Absolutely.
Oh, Uganda was the #1 trip. Dominican Republic, not so much. The Dominican was nice, but not as good as the other trips. Okay. In Orlando, with a couple of board members, we got an opportunity to go to the new Oasis, which is always exciting. So
cool. I just floated an idea to Sarah last week about having our people in the community doing different things, like, you know, when Maureen goes to fill and give out bottles, and when you guys go do kitchen stuff, to be almost like a news anchor, and you can record little snippets, and we'll figure out who's good at like splicing videos.
Yeah, we have. I mean, Angela McClure, she helps us by getting silverware stuff to Denise Robinson, who a lot of people may not know her. She's fairly new to Oasis, and I think she joined after the pandemic, but she has been a great help. She's now coming on Monday. She's driving all the way in from Lawrence to help us at Micah. Wow. And she's also rolling silverware. So a lot of Oasins are involved in helping us support Micah.
Awesome. Well, maybe I can find a day that I can come out and kind of like interview you guys while you guys are doing your work, and we'll make our own little community. What do we call this thing? Community moment. Thank you. Community moment. About like watching you in action. Like,
yeah, you know how shy I am.
I could be like a cheesy anchor woman, don't you think?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect. Alrighty, guys. Let me look at my notes so I don't mess it up again. We are going to go into.
Can I mention one other person?
Please.
Put it in the chat. But Susan Rose Nichols is also a big supporter of Micah. She comes, she sorts clothes, and she comes on Mondays and serves coffee. And if I miss anybody else that's helping us out down there,
Yeah,
It's
there's
not
a whole
intentional.
gaggle of you for sure.
Yes, there's a
So
lot.
I'm gonna coordinate a time that I can either take a day off or come down on a Monday
That'd be
and
awesome.
watch the heroes in action in our
I wouldn't
community.
go that far, but thanks for letting me talk.
Yeah, you bet. All right, guys. Oh, let's see. I did those announcements. We are going to go into our coffee break. So if you need a refill on your coffee, if you need sips of water, we are going to switch into chitty chatty with the friends mode. When we come back, we'll have more music from Alan White, and then our featured speaker, Michael, will tell us about Bike Walk KC. So we'll see you guys soon in a little bit. All right, welcome back, team. Am I still muted? No, I'm not muted. I'm good. Okay. Do we have everybody back? I think we do. All right. Well, I hope you guys had a wonderful time during your community breakaway group, and you got a chance to chat with some new people, some old people, young people, brown people, square people, tall people. I don't know. Insert Dr. Seuss here. We are going to switch straight into our amazing musician, Alan. If you want to get your stuff together, we will have you play another song for us before our featured speaker.
Yeah, wait a minute. I got to click the buttons here. There we go. Now, am I here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we gotcha.
Okay. Well, I did my sound check picking, and this one's finger picked. But I think this maybe should be Oasis's theme song. This is called "I Know What I Think I Believe." It's good to know you found a way to live your life. I'm glad the truth has set you free. But don't try to tell me that's the way I should live mine. I know what I think I believe. I'm glad you finally found your wounded inner child. It's great to hear that primal scream. But don't educate me, I'm enjoying my denial. I know what I think I believe. Next time you meditate, don't think of me at all. Next time you pray, don't pray for me. If I go down, it won't be you who takes the fall. I don't want to hear what I need. I know what I think I believe. Don't want to hear about your stairway to the stars. Don't want to follow where you lead. I don't much care about the way things really are. I know what I think I believe. So don't try to tell me now that God is on my side. You're gonna talk to him for me. I don't need you to fill no emptiness inside. I know what I think I believe. Next time you meditate, don't think of me at all. Next time you pray, don't pray for me. If I go down, it won't be you who takes the fall. I don't want to hear what I need. I know what I think I believe.
I love that. It's got such a good beat. Oh, I was zoning out again. Not sorry. Yeah. All right. And just a reminder, Jason put in the group chat that if you guys wanted to give any tips to Alan for his music this week, KC Oasis will be taking any tips via Venmo for Alan. Just make sure you type in there Alan's tips from today. Today is March 6th. So if you're interested in sending a tip, please do. We are going to move over and invite Michael to come join us. So like I said, Michael is from the BikeWalkKC effort to advocate for the policies, plans, and projects. So Alan, Alan, I'm still thinking about music. I'm so sorry. Michael, I'm going to invite you to come on and tell us a little bit more about yourself and about the projects you've been working on.
Of course. Okay. All right. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. So I will share my screen here and we can get this show on the road. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up? Can people see this? Excellent, excellent. Okay, great. So I have prepared a presentation for you all to talk a little bit more about some of our work and how it specifically aligns with climate change. And so again, my name is Michael Kelley, and I'm the policy director for BikeWalkKC, and I'm going to talk specifically today about the intersection of active transportation and sustainability. The mission of BikeWalkKC is to redefine our streets as places for people to build a culture of active living. I'll talk a little bit more about what all that entails, but really quickly, I just want to begin by talking very quickly about how I got involved in this work. So I'm not a professional bike person by trade. I came into this completely by happenstance. I was fortunate enough to travel to Vancouver with my wife, and we spent an entire week up there, and we only used a car once. Everywhere else we went, we walked, or we took the bus, or we took the subway. I actually didn't bike while I was up there, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that. But when I came back to Kansas City, I remember stepping out onto my porch and asking, man, why can't we have something like that in Kansas City? And so a couple of weeks went by, and this job came up for policy coordinator with BikeWalkKC, and I applied for the job, and I was fortunate enough to be hired, and I've slowly worked my way up the ranks, and late last year I was appointed as the policy director, and so here I am. So with that explanation and the mission, I want to give a very quick overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to start by talking about the link between transportation and climate change, the big issue of our time, how BikeWalkKC is involved with efforts to create a more sustainable transportation system in Kansas City and beyond, and finally, what you, the KC Oasis Secular Group, can do to help us. So first, I want to talk about the link between transportation and climate change and how the way we move is impacting the ongoing crisis. So first and foremost, let's talk about transportation in terms of its impact on climate change. Transportation is our largest source of greenhouse gas emissions as a nation. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, 29% of all emissions in the US comes from transportation. That figure is 4% higher than the next closest source, which is electricity. This is also borne out at the local level. According to the figures from the Office of Environmental Quality for KCMO, transportation is our largest source of greenhouse gas emissions as of 2019. So we know what the source of this is. It's cars and trucks. Going back to the EPA, within the transportation sector, 58% of all transportation emissions come from light-duty vehicles, so cars and trucks. Every gallon of gasoline burns more than 8,800 grams of CO2 emissions, and it is estimated that the typical passenger vehicle emits 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. What makes this all the more unfortunate is that we drive a great deal when we're not going all that far. The National Household Transportation Survey looks at, among other things, how far people typically travel. And in 2019, they found that more than 35% of all trips involving a vehicle were to a destination that was 2 miles away or less. So beyond the vehicles themselves, it's also important to understand the role which land use plays in exacerbating those transportation emissions. So the sorts of homes and communities we build contribute to transportation emissions as well. Many communities, including those across the metro, have an over-reliance on zoning laws, which only allow for single-family homes in most parts of the community. This was done initially to ensure racial segregation via redlining, but now contributes to climate change by forcing people to drive more. As NPR explained in August 2020, as sprawl became the default, it increased the reliance on cars. And today, supercommuters who live hours from their jobs are driving up carbon emissions, literally. So partly in response to building further out, a phenomenon called induced demand has informed the need to build more to accommodate vehicles. Transportation for America, a national transportation group, in a 2020 report explains it like this. Government invests millions in expanding the highway to alleviate congestion. Drivers are drawn to the new open road, even adding new trips where they previously avoided them. Development follows, prompting more and longer car trips. And the cycle repeats a lot. Between 2009 and 2017 alone, the US added over 233,000 miles of new road, which is enough to cross the continental portion more than 83 times. So beyond what we're building and why, it's also important to consider where. Since the start of the highway program under President Eisenhower, the choice has been made time and again to build highways through predominantly Black and brown communities. Besides the environmental destruction, i.e. destroying whole neighborhoods for those projects as they were built, people who remain near highways experience significantly more health problems, such as asthma and cancer, leading to shorter life expectancies as well. And a prime example of this in the Kansas City metro is Highway 71. All told, this not only means we're encouraging people to drive more, but specifically doing so at the expense of other forms of transportation, such as walking, biking, and transit. One other important part of the transportation challenge we need to understand is that an overemphasis on electric cars alone will not solve the problem. This is not to say that electric cars are inherently bad, but we need to acknowledge they aren't a silver bullet either. So initially, driving an electric car may be cleaner than gasoline, but the source of that electricity plays a big role in how much cleaner that car actually is. The Department of Energy has a side-by-side comparison in each state of how much emissions you generate based on the fuel source of your car. In Missouri, an all-electric vehicle generates about 7,700 pounds of CO2 emissions per year, which is actually more than the 6,200 pounds of emissions you would generate by driving a hybrid vehicle. This is due in part to the fact that nearly 75% of our state's electricity comes from coal. Additionally, electric cars could exacerbate some of the socioeconomic inequalities that already exist with gasoline-powered cars, like accessibility. So many electric vehicles have what's known as a skateboard architecture. So that includes the battery pack, the electric drivetrain, and the electrical architecture that rests under the floor of the vehicle. So besides the immediate height challenge that this creates because of where the floor of the vehicle is located, this configuration makes it near impossible to install a ramp. All of this is before considering the additional challenges currently posed by most charging infrastructure. So the bottom line is that in order to meet our goals of lower carbon emissions in the transportation sector, the aim shouldn't be to change what type of car we drive. The aim should be to drive cars less, to increase the viability of other mobility choices, and to enable the development of communities which make those choices easier. So instead of continuing to build and expand highways and placing an overemphasis on electric cars, we should instead invest in multimodal transportation. But what should those investments be used for? So with better walkability and accessibility, people need and deserve good sidewalks to connect them to the places they need for a good quality of life. Schools, parks, places of worship, to name a few. Coupling that with safe crossings for roads and a shift towards universal design instead of basic ADA requirements is crucial. Next, with protected and connected bike facilities. When we speak with many people about the possibility of biking, they seem interested but concerned. And this is in line with most national standards. So when you look at people who are, when most cities are evaluating the level of interest in biking, they typically put people in one of four categories. Enthused and confident, so you can ride anywhere and you have no problem doing that. enthused but cautious, so you can ride in most places, but you would prefer if bike infrastructure was there. Interested but concerned, so you're interested in biking, but because of a lack of infrastructure, you largely choose not to bike at all, and then no interest at all. Not interested, don't want to do it, I'm not going to ever do that. In most communities, there's about the big chunk of people fall in that realm of interested but concerned. And in Kansas City, it's about 30 to 35%. So when we're advocating for more connected and protected bike facilities, we're specifically doing it so that we can help that portion of the population be able to make the choice to bike more because they want to do it. But again, because of the lack of infrastructure, they're currently choosing not to. Finally, it's important to support public transit. What that looks like, especially from a climate standpoint, is shifting buses to cleaner fuel sources, as well as increasing the frequency and reliability of transit overall. Things like zero fare transit are also important, but what's most important is making transit competitive with driving alone. So with that being said, I want to shift gears now and talk a little bit more about how BikeWalkKC is involved with efforts to create a more sustainable Kansas City. So I'm going to go through each of our key program areas fairly quickly to highlight how our work supports a more sustainable city and region. First up, policy and advocacy. So with multimodal policy, we work to advocate for policies which make it easier to walk, roll, and bike in Kansas City. This includes supporting complete streets policies, which push communities to look for more ways to develop streets which support multimodal transportation. Increasing funding. We also advocate for funding elements which support active transportation. So in the proposed KCMO budget for this year, there is proposed funding for sidewalks, ADA improvements, zero fare transit, and more, which BikeWalkKC and our partners are advocating for. And finally, we can't do this alone. So we work to mobilize our supporters and partner with organizations which support building a culture of active living here in Kansas City. So that includes organizations like Environment Missouri, the Thomas Hart Benton chapter of the Sierra Club, as well as other neighborhood groups like the Marlboro Community Coalition. Next, let's talk about our education efforts. So it's not enough to simply build more infrastructure. We also have to teach people how to use it and how to navigate spaces where that infrastructure doesn't exist. So through offerings such as our Competent City cycling courses, we aim to do just that. And this is a picture from one of those recent trainings in Lenexa. We also help groups and communities conduct what are known as walk audits to identify key gaps and limitations in current infrastructure. This can be helpful in turn by enabling those same groups and communities to more effectively advocate for investments and improvements. And finally, we work with school districts and electeds in some communities to identify safe routes to school to help those decision makers better focus the limited funds they have in ways which can support the most vulnerable road users, so people who walk, who roll, and who bike. We also have a planning director on staff who does the following: developing plans and projects. Part of building a more sustainable transportation system is having a plan. So in that space, our planner provides technical expertise and has helped to develop some of the key plans to help communities build streets to support multimodal transportation. We also have a community dashboard where the planning director is able to insert and analyze data that we receive. That data helps us to track progress on multimodal projects and hold decision makers accountable. And beyond those first 2 points, we also provide collaboration and feedback on individual projects and plans to strengthen the final product. So an example of that is what you're seeing here. This was a community meeting that was organized in part to support North Kansas City as it was developing its master bike plan. Our planning director worked with several consultants to develop this, and it ultimately received awards from the local chapter of the American Planning Association because of how well it was written. So last but certainly not least, we run the area's bike share program. So really quickly, our bike share program is a unique model. It is a public-private nonprofit model. So the way that works is BikeWalkKC, we operate the system. In terms of the financial kind of underwriting, it's done by Ride KC. So the people who run the buses, we are part of that system. And then in terms of the technology and the bikes themselves, we are partnered with the private firm Drop Mobility. So our classic and electric bikes operate on an app, allowing them to be dockless, as seen here. They still include what's known as a Lock 2 system when not in use to ensure that they don't become a hazard for pedestrians or people with disabilities. So even with this, we understand that cost can be a barrier for some, and that's why we started our Bike Share for All program, which provides subsidized memberships for low-income earners in partnership with several community organizations. So we also gather some data through this, which allows us to identify trends in use. This is one way that we can then work to make the case for more bike infrastructure in a given location, because oftentimes people feel comfortable using bike share on trails or on protected bike facilities. And so when we're able to kind of show those trends, especially to elected officials, that can help to inform their decisions to build more of that type of infrastructure in more parts of their community. So with all that being said, I want to now shift to you and what you can do to help us advocate for cleaner mobility across the Kansas City region. Get involved with BikeWalkKC. Advocacy is a team sport. BikeWalkKC is only successful because of our members and partners, and we want to work with more people. So become a member. We are a nonprofit, and we are powered in large part by our members. Consider becoming a member and making a donation today. Please forgive the shameless plug. Sign up for our newsletter. If you want to stay up to date on what we're doing and advocating for, sign up for our newsletter. You can sign up for everything that we send out, or you can choose specific sorts of updates you want to receive. A lot of times people sign up for our advocacy alerts because that's what they're really interested in. And finally, come to our events. We're always hosting events, so please check them out. Most of them are still virtual because of COVID, but as the outlook continues to improve with the pandemic, we will likely be revisiting this. So beyond BikeWalkKC, I want to make two requests of everyone in the audience. The first is to get involved in your place. So walk, roll, or bike to a destination. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, and it doesn't even have to be every day. But the next chance you get, if you think it's close enough, make the choice to walk, roll, or bike to your destination. As you go to and from your destination, document your experience. What emotions do you feel as you cross the street? What is the quality of your sidewalks? What do the good or bad things of that journey tell you about what we prioritize for people who walk or bike regularly? Ask about multimodal aspects. So when you get to your destination, look at what elements are included for people who walk, take the bus, or bike. If there's not much there, ask yourself why. So a perfect example here is, this is me riding my bike to the dentist. Forgive the messy bike, but it's always a really good experience to be able to, get there and know that there's bike parking out front, but the ride to and from there isn't always the nicest, but it helps to kind of put in context what it could be if we were to make certain investments. So the second ask is with getting involved at your city hall. First, look at climate-related policies. There's regional policies like the Climate Action Plan from the Mid-American Regional Council to consider, but also start looking in your communities for official documents, plans, and policies related to not just sustainability, but the various issues which make sustainability possible. Attend a meeting and bring friends. Neighborhood associations, open houses, what have you, show up. Advocacy requires you to speak up, especially in these sorts of settings. And finally, talk to your electeds. Meet with your electeds, especially at the local level. Talk to your council members and your mayor to learn more about what they're doing to advance climate-friendly policies. So before I go to questions from the audience, I want to take a moment to let everyone know that we will be hosting several trainings throughout the year related to advocacy. This includes Advocacy Training 101, the basics, where we cover the basics of advocating for better walking and biking in your community. We had to reschedule this, so this will actually take place on Thursday, March 10th. So mark your calendars. Advocacy Training 102 will go into greater detail about how to be an effective public speaker, as well as how to prepare for public meetings. AT 103 will cover the basics of organizing a coalition and how to mobilize support for a specific policy change. And then finally, AT 104 will explore how advocates can work to develop and maintain effective relationships with staff and elected officials. You do not need to take every single one of these trainings back to back, but they are ordered in this manner to build off of each other somewhat and inform the broader lessons of being an effective advocate. So with that, I want to thank you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Awesome. Michael, thank you so much. Like, this whole thing is like, oh my gosh. Oh. I'm super lucky. My kids and I live about 20 minutes away from our school. So as you might guess, we drive to school a lot of the time, but it's like you said, those short trips, sometimes twice a day if it's cold outside. We were trying to walk more for sure, but we have bikes in the garage and they're just sitting there. So we're going to work on that. Couple questions from our community here. What communities have been better about embracing change?
I will say that I think one place that's been doing a really good job is North Kansas City. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar, but Kansas City and North Kansas City are two separate communities. North Kansas City has been doing a really good job of embracing better walkability and bikeability. Kansas City, Missouri is slowly starting to change thanks to the new city manager. He comes from Jersey City, and so he's really supportive of trying to improve multimodal transportation as well. On the Kansas side, I definitely have to give a shout out to the community of Westwood, Kansas. So they've been doing a really good job with that as well. And I'll also say Wyandotte County with their mobility plan is doing a good job as well. So
awesome, great. That was Melanie Bollinger. They are triathletes, so she'll have more questions here down the road. I can already see them working on that. Sarah also had a question. How much change have you seen since you started advocating?
It comes in starts and stops. It's kind of hard to put like a percentage on it, but I will say that one silver lining of the pandemic, if there is that, is it got people to really kind of ask the question of, or get outside more and like walk and bike in their communities and really begin to see, man, this isn't really that good. Maybe we should do more to try to change this. And so it's gotten more people to ask the question of what has to happen, what has to change. And I think that it's not just at the local level, but there's also been state and federal legislation, such as the infrastructure bill, which gives us a lot of hope about what the future could be.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure when I hear infrastructure, you think highways and roads, and I'm thinking also too sidewalks and, like the walkways that are bigger, right? So that you can have people walking on this side and bicycles on the other side, because you're like, on your left, please don't run over me. Awesome. Melanie asked, how many communities in need of more focus?
I think in terms of communities that need more focus, I mean, in the region, I personally would like to see us try to do more in places like Independence, or in places like in more specific neighborhoods, and not neighborhoods, but communities in the Northland. I think there's a lot of opportunity in places like Gladstone and Liberty, and we're actually working to try to get a complete streets policy adopted in Riverside. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in the Northland as well.
Excellent. They also asked, how do we join? I put in the link for the Get Involved from the BikeWalkKC website. I was kind of scrolling through there just my little brain is just going all over the place, and lots of interesting information in there about how to get involved. So guys, make sure you check out that website because there's lots of cool stuff on there.
Absolutely.
Sarah asked again, do you consider crime rate or the area when considering areas to work with? And are there any, or she said that there are areas near her house that feel unsafe to ride in. And how does that work with you guys?
That's part of how we try to do things. So obviously a lot of my work is supported by grants from places such as the Health Forward Foundation. And so part of it is trying to make places more safe, but it's also about trying to lower the barriers, because what constitutes safety is not necessarily the same across the board. So in some communities, it is because of a lack of lighting. In some places, it's because there's a legitimate fear of being pulled over for walking and biking by the police. And so that also kind of defines, what sort of steps that we take. And so it's not necessarily the same across the board. And I know that that's not a clean cut answer, but that is kind of how we approach those aspects of that work. So
sure. And I mean, like you said, there's different areas of town and every single region of our Kansas City home. Mm-hmm. Another question was, any specific projects in the Johnson County area?
Trying to think. The main things I'll highlight are that there have been efforts to, so BikeShare actually did just come back online. So with Johnson County Parks, they do it from, I think, March to October. So the BikeShare bikes are available at parks like Sarco Park. And in terms of additional projects, I know that there's been efforts to install some new bike lanes on, I want to say, Johnson Drive in Miriam, and then I think that in Mission, and then I think that there's also been an effort to try to strengthen the sidewalk program in Miriam. So depending on which part of Johnson County specifically you're talking about, I might be able to give you more specific answers. So
very good, awesome. Yeah, I live in Shawnee, and it's like Hillapalooza. I mean, I can barely walk the hill, let alone bike it. So I gotta work those quads more, right? Tony asked, how can we bring bike sharing to our local areas? So maybe if there's a request, are they able to submit requests for more bike share programs in their area?
So typically what it is we will get a request from the elected officials or the leadership of a given community that, hey, we're interested in learning more about bike share. Can you come and explain it? And then our bike share director can talk a little bit more about the logistics of it, what the cost would be, and things of that nature. I will say that we recently launched bike share in Ottawa at Ottawa University. We're really excited about that, and it's been very, very heavily used since we deployed it. So it is definitely something that we're able to do, and we're still expanding. So send us an email, and we can definitely talk about that more.
Excellent. And I just translated. Jim Skinner is one of our Oasis, what are we called? Community members. Thank you. Oasis community members who resides in a wheelchair. I'm pretty sure the majority of the time he's out and about. And he put North Kansas City in like a boulder or a rock, and then in the wheelchair. So I'm sure you probably can translate that pretty well to say there's probably rocks or potholes or divots or something like that in the road. Is there a way that people are able to report those types of things to say like, hey, this is a problem for me every time I go out. Can you prioritize these? Is that something in process already?
It varies from place to place, but I would say if you're specifically in North Kansas City, probably the person you would want to report it to would be either your city council member, or I would specifically report it to the public works director, Anthony Sands. So if you want to, or they rock are doing good. So I didn't want to assume, but if the question is trying to report like a pothole or something like that, I would report it to the public works director to just say, hey, next time you're doing some repairs, if you could fix this, that'd be another one to look at. So
the public, I think about that sometimes too. We were on a walk yesterday, and you could tell a car and a light pole got in a fight, and the light pole was like gracefully shoved into the grass, and I was like, but there's glass everywhere, and I was like, should I call someone? You know, but there was already cones and stuff, so I'm like, well, probably on somebody's to-do list somewhere. So excellent. Guys, any other questions for Michael? I feel like this is such helpful information. I just like to re-emphasize. Oh, he says North Kansas City rocks. Okay, so that's good. That's good information.
So yeah, I'll just say, yeah, it's going to be a busy week for us. We're in the middle of trying to organize some of our federal efforts, and then we'll be releasing a new document tomorrow that we're really excited about. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome, for sure. So I just want to reiterate to our members here, sometimes we're having those nicer weather days. So, you know, try to figure out if you have just a mile or so that you're traveling to a neighbor or to a store. See, can you, oh, sorry, one last question I had for you, Michael.
Yes.
When I was a kid of the 90s, and they would always put signs up everywhere that says, no biking, no rollerblading, no skateboarding. Are they, is that enforced very much, especially if you're like, I am clearly in transit? Or is that more for like, you know, in my day, we didn't have internet and we didn't have TV, and it was like, well, we're just going to loiter in the 7-Eleven parking lot and cause trouble on our skateboards and our rollerblades and our bikes. So you can blame my generation for that. But how is that being handled by especially the law enforcement or the businesses? Are they frowning upon people having those modes of transportation, or do they kind of understand, oh, you're rolling from A to B?
It varies from place to place. So I'll use Kansas City, Missouri as an example really quick. So Kansas City passed an ordinance a couple of years ago that specifically says you are allowed to walk, roll in a wheelchair, riding on a scooter or skateboard in a bike lane. So they specifically expanded that definition so that people can use that for different types of mobility. The other thing is KCMO in 2021 repealed jaywalking. So they specifically said you can't punish people for jaywalking anymore, in part response to the murder of George Floyd. So I say that, you know, it varies from place to place, but I think on that front, Kansas City, Missouri is the leader in terms of taking steps to specifically allow additional types of mobility without punishing people for using them.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Awesome. Yeah, and we've talked about rollerblades, and I was like, how am I supposed to do that at the same time as a sidewalk with grass? I don't know. So we'll work on that. That'll be our homework for the summer. All right, Michael, thank you again so much. And I think he'll be around for a little bit. So if you guys still have questions, put those in the chat and he can kind of write you back. We are going to invite Alan to come play one more song for us. And then Alan, I do want to pick your brain a little bit about what you've got going on. So kind of have that in the rear view of your brain once your song is finished. And I'm going to mute here.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody. I've had a good time here. I want to also tell everybody that I am wearing pants, and I think that's, you know, that's out of respect. And yeah, and go and look up Fans of Alan White on Facebook if you want to find some place to see me do my thing. This song is a song that I dedicate to everyone, everywhere. Everyone I've ever met, everyone I've never met, everyone I never will meet. This is called Way Down the Road. Hats off to all the crazy strangers who have touched me in my time. Wild companions on our way down the road, partners in my crimes. I don't know all your names and faces, but I remember every heart, shining love to light our way down the road. Save us from the dark. Just when I worry that I may not survive the heartache and strife my life has known, I take some comfort in a kind pair of eyes to help me realize I'm not alone. Sometimes it takes a fool to find one. I suppose that's how we met. Pilgrims passing on our way down the road, who bring each other rest. Why I keep looking back is hard to explain. Nostalgia for things that never were. Have trouble sorting out the pleasure and pain. You know love's the only real thing that I've learned. Hats off to all the crazy strangers who became my crazy friend. I hope we'd find each other way down the road. We all get home again. I hope we'd find each other way down the road. We all get home again.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alan. So again, one more plug. If you guys are interested in sending a tip to Alan, you can send that to us on Venmo at Kansas City-Oasis on Venmo. And just make sure you point out in your comment there that tip for Alan White. Oh, I got an echo here. Sorry. Alan, I'm going to mute you here in just a few minutes. For those of you who are interested in seeing what Alan has going on, you can go to that facebook.com. The group is called Fans of Alan White. So make sure you search for that, and he's got info on there about upcoming events. Any questions for Alan? Make sure you put those in the chat. Oh, and then Julie had a message here. KC Oasis has donated $100 to the BikeWalkKC in gratitude for the presentation of Michael today. So thank you again to Alan for serenading us, and thank you to Michael for the amazing information about our BikeWalkKC efforts going on in Kansas City area. Thank you to Mark for also sharing with us about your retirement shenanigans. We always love to hear from our community members. A couple things I want to announce before we wrap up for the day. We are going to, I also want to plug Oasis. We are a 501c3, so a completely volunteer run and donation supported organization. So if you're interested in supporting Oasis, you can do recurring donations on kcoasis.org, and that's funded by the Simple Give website. You can also text to give 816-839-7656. There is a website link for kcoasis.org/donate. We're going to see you guys next week. Daniel Harris will be our community moment. Alexa Dawson will be our musician, and our featured speaker will be a yoga instructor, Angela Schaefer. So looking forward to all of those folks. Again, thank you to our speakers, and thank you to all of our community members for joining us here today, and we will see you guys next week.